Hi, this is Kelly. You're listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Would you like to hear your own voice here at the beginning of our next episode? We would. If you'd like to record a little intro for us, please email us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com for more information. All right, on with the show. Thanks. Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics, and I'm here in this segment with Edie Hardcastle, who is running for State Senate in Indiana, Senate District 49. Hi, Edie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Can you start by telling me just a little bit of your background and why you've decided to run for office?
Yes, so I have a PhD in biology. And I've been teaching at the University of Southern Indiana for 15 years. That's primarily an undergraduate institution, and it's focused on teaching. And I've gotten a lot out of my experience with students. I love it. I've always voted with regards to politics, but I've never really, until recently, been involved in party politics or running for office before. And I think one of the things that's spurred me to that was getting more involved after the election of 2016 and starting to interact more closely with my elected representatives and just having a reality check with regards to how decisions are made and not only in the state legislature, but also in Congress.
And so where is Senate District 49 within Indiana?
Senate District 49 is in the extreme southwest corner of Indiana. The southwest counties in Indiana are Vanderburgh and Posey. And so District 49 is half of Vanderburgh County, the west half, and then all of that westernmost county of Posey County. So it's a really interesting district in that it is half urban and half rural, Posey County being primarily an agricultural area. And even though Posey is the entire county in the district, the largest population center is in Vanderburgh.
Yeah, and so I think of Indiana, I'm in Illinois and Chicago, and I think of Indiana, when I think of it, I think of sort of the northern part that I drive through frequently. But this is actually about 5 hours south of Chicago, so it almost feels more like part of the South to me, thinking about things like geography and environment and stuff.
It is. And you know, as a biologist, I have been cued into that for a long time. Our temperatures are slightly warmer. We get slightly more rain. And we have a flora and fauna, actually, that's more closely associated here with the South than with northern Indiana.
And so right now in this Senate district, there's a Republican incumbent, and it looks like he's been there since 2010. Is that right?
That is correct. That's when he was elected.
And last time around, he didn't even have an opponent in the general election.
That's correct. And that is one of the reasons that I chose to make a run for state senate. This last time, as you say, there was nobody to choose from in the last election. And I think that's one of the frustrations that you see with voters in general, is that there's not a choice for voters. And that's one of the things that contributes to voter apathy. And Indiana, you might already know, is sort of notable for voter apathy. We have one of the lowest voter turnout rates in the United States. And here in my district, you know, that's no different here. In the primary we only had 10% turnout of at least Democrats in Vanderburgh County. So one of the big pushes is to increase participation in democracy in general.
So when we talk to people in Texas, they always said Texas isn't a red state, it's a non-voting state. Do you think that that is true of Indiana as well? By which I mean, do you think that if a greater portion of the population voted in Indiana, that Democrats would do better?
Without a doubt. And it's interesting to note that in 2008, Indiana actually voted for President Obama And we went blue because we had one of the largest turnouts that we have had in a while. My district, the Senate District 49, is about half Democrats and half Republicans. But as some of my friends who are in politics like to say, Republicans vote, Democrats vote sometimes. And I think we tend to get discouraged that there's not anything that we can do to change things, is really what I hear from some of my very politically active friends, a lot of discouragement. And coming from, I think, a strong Protestant background with a very strong work ethic, the idea is that in my household, there's nothing other than death, that can't be cured with just a lot of hard work. So that's my attitude on the situation, is that we really just need to put our noses to the grindstone, get out there and participate, get out there and vote. And really, it would do a lot to change the shape of politics, not only in Indiana, but in the U.S.
So what are the issues that are really motivating voters in southern Indiana, especially in Senate District 49?
Well, without a doubt, you have to start, I think it's all centered on the economy. And one of the things that a representative or senator, I think, should be focused on is bringing jobs. And not just jobs, because one of the things that we do have in Indiana is a low unemployment rate, but a lot of that is underemployment. And it's because we're not attracting good jobs that pay a livable wage. So one of the things we should focus on is how do we attract those quality employers, employers that are going to be paying livable wages and good benefits so people can support a family and, send their kids to college, allow those kids to succeed, and actually keep those kids after they graduate from high school and college or the trades and keep them in Indiana. So it's not only attracting employers, what we want to do is we want to attract workers.
And what kinds of employers and what kinds of employees, workers, do you think would be well suited for this district?
I think it pays to look nationally for trends with regards to where the economy is going. One of the things that Indiana is competing for now is the Amazon distributor that's looking to relocate. They're looking at Indiana as a possible landing spot. And one of the things that Amazon and other large employers are looking to do is to have a portion of their energy needs met by renewable energy. And so if we want to look long-term in growing jobs in the state, we need to have a serious look at where our energy is coming from. And I think that's something that we do very poorly right now in Indiana. We need to start incentivizing really energy of the future. For instance, a very conservative state, you mentioned Texas already. Texas already gets 20% of its energy from renewable sources. And so that's one of the reasons their economy is so strong and growing. And California would be a similar, but a blue state. And another thing that we need to attract jobs of the future is a tech infrastructure. So one of the pushes in the state is to increase the availability of high-speed broadband internet access. And so many of our rural counties, like Posey County, would really benefit if we really kicked up the availability of broadband.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's something that we're hearing a lot of places as we talk to people around the country. And it seems like that's something that we need just nationally to have a better push for.
Yes. And, it's a complicated picture with regards to state involvement versus corporate involvement. But there are, cooperative relationships that have been successful in other places.
So the state senate in Indiana, is this a full-time position or a part-time position?
Well, Indiana has an interesting situation. They alternate years. There's budget years and non-budget years. So we just had this short session this year. The legislature only went for 3 months. Now, in a budget year, which will be coming up next year, the Senate goes at least another month from January through April. But while you're there, the Senate is in session generally from Monday to Thursday. And so one of the things that I would have to do is alter my teaching schedule so that I could teach an online course during the spring and then teach more of those courses during the summer.
And so I assume there's not a lot of college professors in the state legislature. So what are the other kinds of professions that people have as their sort of other source of income of the people right now who are in the legislature?
Well, there's a lot of attorneys in the legislature. There are realtors who, professions that tend to be flexible. I know that many legislators wait until they're retired to do this. So some of those individuals are retired and don't have full-time jobs.
Yeah, that seems like that's not completely representative.
Right, exactly. And, you also mentioned representative. It would be nice to have a more representative array of legislators with regards to the number of women versus men as well. So Indiana, like all the states, sort of lags behind having equal numbers of women in the legislature.
And you're a mom as well, right?
Yes, I have a 10-year-old, and it's one of the reasons my focus is education. I had a world-class public education when I was growing up. My son is in public school right now. He just finished the 4th grade, and he's having a wonderful experience. So one of the things that I want to focus on is making sure that our public schools are fully funded and we start giving teachers the raises they deserve, which is one of the things that has been declining over time, is their incomes of our teachers have been going down, which is definitely the wrong direction.
So since we're talking about public schools, one of the big issues right now that people are thinking about with regard to schools, but a lot of things, is gun safety and gun legislation. How does that issue play out in a district like yours?
In a district like mine, we have a lot of gun owners. I am a gun owner myself. I strongly support the Second Amendment. I grew up with guns in the house. So as a hunting family, I understand what those are for. But what has happened over time is that I think we've lost all common sense with regards to the types of guns and their availability. And the number of mass shootings and gun deaths has literally become a public health crisis. And of course, that relates directly to school safety. Particularly, it's an issue right now. Now, in Indiana, it's a very serious issue. Just last week, we had a shooting in a school here in Noblesville. And so it's not something that just happens somewhere else. And so we need to address school safety, of course. In many ways, it's a complicated issue. We have to start thinking about the number of counselors we have in a school, but there's no way to address this issue by ignoring common sense firearm legislation that keeps guns out of the hands of people that have mental illness and that are domestic abusers. And one of the ways to also make sure that everybody is safe everywhere in the United States is to have universal background checks, which is something we do not have yet.
Is there anything else that you would like to be sure that people are thinking about when they're thinking about your campaign or your district?
I think that one of the things that we need to make sure that we do when we're moving forward is that we start acting like Americans. I think we've moved way too far into just putting ourselves into cubbies of Democrats versus the Republicans. We've got all sorts of problems that we need to solve. Indiana is one of the 10 worst in the United States with regard to infant mortality. And we have to start solving those problems with solutions that are based on facts. And so one of the things that I think I can bring to the table is one of the things, that I do for a living is solve problems using data. And we can't, for instance, solve some of our public health crises, like our high infant mortality rate, our maternal mortality rates, unless we start using facts to make decisions in government.
Yeah, I would love to see more scientists in
At least
office. All right. So if people would like to learn more about your campaign or maybe